Today, in part 1 of part 8 of Vigyan Bhairav Granth, we will elaborate on topics such as Shiva-Shakti dialogue for the feeling of void and space and a deep analysis of the verses of Nad, Shabda Brahma, and Mantra sadhanas.
Let your mind settle for a moment and just allow your breathing to slow down. We're entering a space of ultimate stillness here. I want you to imagine cosmic consciousness itself, Lord Shiva, gently guiding the divine feminine, Mother Shakti, through the very mechanics of existence. This isn't just theory or mere philosophy. It's a direct, practical transmission. So let's calmly and systematically walk through this explainer of how ancient tantric science maps the human experience right onto the infinite canvas of the void. To truly comprehend the boundless space within and without, we have to follow a structured path of ascension. The Vigyan Bhairav reveals a precise 6-step methodology for realizing shunya, the great void. We'll be transitioning from our gross physical form all the way to the absolute dissolution of the mind. We start with posture and resolution. Then we move to perceiving the skin as a wall in verse 48, dissolving the internal form into inner space in verse 47, contemplating the profound three void in verse 45, expanding infinitely in verses 43 and 44, and finally entering the state of momentary no choice in verse 46. Let's step right into the sacred geometry of meditation. Before the mind can even touch the void, the physical body has to become completely still. This brings us to step 1. Posture and resolution. Picture the practitioner sitting in a steady, comfortable posture. The spine is perfectly erect and the eyes are gently closed. You draw your breath inward, keeping it deep and rhythmic, which immediately starts calming the nervous system. At this moment, the resolution, the sankalpa, is made. You're consciously deciding to detach from the chaotic, sensory world outside and turn your gaze entirely inward. Your body essentially becomes a grounded temple, a physical anchor that's preparing for the cosmic transmission that's about to unfold. And once you've achieved this profound stillness, we're ready to move to the first layer of dissolution. Which leads us to step 2, focusing closely on verse 48, or the 25th dharana. This is where the inner alchemy really begins. Let's look at the original text. The phrase breakdown gives us svadehe, meaning in one's own body, twag avachine, bounded by the skin, and vimarshata, by deeply contemplating. So the simple English translation tells us to contemplate one's own body as a mere empty shell bounded by the wall of the skin. In this beautiful dialogue, Shiva is instructing Shakti to feel the skin not just as an organ of touch, but as an absolute boundary. Imagine it as a fortress wall. By focusing your attention solely on your skin as a boundary, you systematically cut off your mind's habit of constantly leaking outward into the world. You are completely contained. The external universe is shut out, and your awareness is forcefully, yet peacefully, gathered right at the perimeter of your physical being. Now that we've established the skin as a boundary wall, we cross that boundary inward to step 3, which is guided by Karika 47, the 24th dharana. Our focus shifts from the outer wall to what actually lies inside it. The verse instructs us to look within and realize that all the inner substances we usually identify with, flesh, blood, bone, are completely devoid of real solidity. You're asked to consider the entire interior of your body as pure, limitless space, or akasha. I want you to imagine standing inside a vast, incredibly hollow cathedral. Your skin is just the outer masonry, but inside there is only echoing, luminous emptiness. This is a massive leap in consciousness. You're no longer this dense, heavy physical entity. You are literally becoming a vessel of space. Let's dive a little deeper into the layers of Karika 47. The core instruction is to perceive the body as a hollow vessel filled with empty space. Now, spiritually, this practice dismantles the very root of human suffering, which is our rigid identification with the physical body. When you feel your body as just empty space, your ego naturally begins to lose its grip. From a religious perspective, this is the purification of the vessel, emptying it out to make room for divine presence. Tantrically speaking, as a practitioner, you are intentionally transmuting the dense, gross physical elements upward into the subtle akasha tattva, or the space element. And what's truly fascinating is how this ancient philosophical realization mirrors modern quantum physics. It points to the truth that physical solidity is maya, an illusion, and that all matter is overwhelmingly just empty space. You are realizing the vast, untouched void of Shiva consciousness. As the inner body becomes pure stasis, we ascend to step 4. Here, we encounter one of the most powerful and awe-inspiring tantric concepts, the tree shunya, or the three void. This is detailed in Karika 45, the 22nd dharana. You see, emptiness in this context isn't just a vague general feeling. It has a very specific, energetic geography. The Tri Shunya is the meditative state where you contemplate profound emptiness in 3 distinct regions of your being: the lower region near the root, the middle region of the heart, and the upper region of the crown. By systematically meditating on emptiness in these 3 specific centers, you effectively neutralize the 3 main knots of human existence. We're talking about our primal physical drives, our deep emotional entanglements, and our complex mental illusions. Let's break down Karika 45 even further to really understand its impact. The translation offers a very direct instruction: meditate upon the void above, the void below, and the void in the center. Philosophically, this represents the complete dismantling of our localized, trifold human existence. And the tantric significance? It's immensely powerful. Within the tantric subtle body, there are granthis. These are dense, energetic knots that keep our consciousness bound and restricted. By applying the fierce dissolving power of shunya directly to these 3 centers, you pierce these knots. It allows trapped energy to finally flow freely. On a practical level, this step strips away all your worldly attachments. Think about it. You can't hold on to fear in the root, or grief in the heart, or anxiety in the mind when all 3 of these centers are perceived as absolute silent emptiness. The localized ego simply dissolves into the great cosmic silence. Having achieved this profound inner emptiness, we naturally arrive at step 5. The boundaries of the body can no longer contain the sheer magnitude of this silence. We enter the domain of Karika 43 and Karika 44, the 20th and 21st dharanas. Up until this point, the void was contained entirely within the wall of the skin. But in this supreme phase of the Shiva-Shakti dialogue, the instruction shifts. Now you let that internal space expand infinitely. The boundary of the skin doesn't just hold, it simply vanishes. The empty space that was you bursts outward in all directions: up, down, left, right, forward, and backward. It merges seamlessly with the infinite cosmic void. At this stage, there's no longer an inside and an outside. It's like the drop has finally slipped into the ocean, and simultaneously the ocean has slipped into the drop. The immense gravity of Karvanikas 43 and 44 really lies in this total dissolution of the spatial, localized self into the universal akasha. The simple English translation guides us beautifully here. Contemplate the entire universe as a void. Let the mind dissolve into the all-pervading emptiness. The spiritual ascendance happening here is the ultimate crossover. You move from being a limited individual consciousness to becoming the universal consciousness itself. In Tantric terms, this process is known as laya, which means absolute absorption. The microcosm of your human form perfectly dissolves into the macrocosm of the entire universe. Philosophically, this is the realization of the absolute. You are directly experiencing the truth of aham brahmasmi, I am the universe. You're realizing that you and the cosmos share the exact same essence, a profound, silent, and luminous nothingness. And so we reach the summit of this ascension, step 6, rooted in Karika 46, the 23rd dharana. As the void expands infinitely, the mind, which, as we know, is designed to constantly grasp at objects, finds absolutely nothing left to hold on to. In this vastness, a spontaneous, terrifying, yet unbelievably beautiful moment occurs. It's what we call the momentary no choice. The text guides us with these words: enter the choiceless state. Let all mental fluctuations cease in the infinite vastness. When you experience everywhere and nowhere all at once, the mind simply has to stop. There is no alternative, there's no decision to make, no thought to pursue. In this sudden, absolute stillness, the pure awareness that remains is the very nature of Shiva. Let's look closely at Karika 46. The literal translation suggests that when the mind is fixed on the void, or caught right in that tiny gap between 2 thoughts, it must be allowed to become utterly choiceless. The philosophical meaning here is the absolute cessation of vikalpa. Vikalpa is dualistic thought, that constant, exhausting swinging between this and that. When vikalpa ceases, what remains is pure, non-dual awareness. For the seeker, the practical significance of this is profound. This choiceless state isn't a state of dullness or sleep, not at all. It is highly alert, electric, and radiant. It is the sudden, undeniable realization of pure consciousness, the Bhairava state. It stands completely alone, observing the infinite, and it needs absolutely no objects to justify its existence. Having established this absolute, breathtaking silence of the void, a very natural question arises. What actually comes out of this ultimate emptiness? The Vigyan Bhairav answers this through the concept of Nod and Shabda Brahma. Out of the cosmic shunya, a subtle, primordial vibration begins to emerge. This is the unstruck cosmic sound, nad, literally the hum of existence itself. The principle of Shabda Brahma dictates that supreme reality manifests first as this auditory vibration before it ever becomes physical matter. During their dialogue, Shiva explains to Shakti that by catching hold of this subtle sound, the practitioner can actually ride the wave of vibration all the way back into the absolute silence of the void. This brings us to the very practical application of sound, which is detailed in Karikas 39 and 40 regarding the Omkara or Pranav. This is the true essence of mantra sadhana. You see, a mantra is not just a prayer, it is an acoustic vehicle. The practitioner chants a sound, like the sacred Om, and then focuses intensely as the sound diminishes. The physical chanting might stop, but the sound continues vibrating deeply in the mind. The specific instruction here is to follow that trailing, fading echo. As the sound grows impossibly subtle, the mind follows it, effortlessly dissolving into the infinite shunya, pulling your awareness right into the void along with it. The mechanics of this particular sadhana are beautifully precise. You chant a sacred mantra, you focus entirely on the fading echo, you follow that vibration as it becomes impossibly subtle, and then you dissolve completely into the pregnant silence that follows the sound. The spiritual implication is quite profound when you think about it. You are using form, which is the sound itself, to bridge the gap and reach the formless, which is absolute silence. Tantrically, this acts as a deeply powerful anchor. Our human minds wander endlessly, but the mantra gathers all that scattered attention into a single, pure frequency. As that frequency fades out, the mind is gently peeled back from external reality, leaving behind only a supreme, supernatural peace. We've journeyed together from the physical posture, moved through the inner voids, expanded our awareness into the cosmic space, and finally, we've ridden the primordial sound back into stillness. As we conclude this explainer of the Vigyan Bhairav, I want to leave you with a contemplation. It's something to ponder in the quiet, undisturbed depths of your own meditation. As the final echo of the mantra fades into infinite space, dissolving completely into the great shunya, who remains to hear the silence?